What's up guys, Insom here. If you haven't already realized, Killing Floor 3 has been out for about 1 day at the time of this upload. I'm here to provide you with my 2 cents in the form of a review and a quick rundown of tips to help you progress in the early game. If you're a newcomer to the Killing Floor franchise, KF3 is a wave-based horde PvE shooter with different classes or specialists equipped with different tools to deal with its iconic cast of enemies. Opinions on the game have been polarizing for a multitude of reasons. However, to keep things short, I'll focus on my personal thoughts. For some perspective, being the filthy online degenerate I am, I've spent about 20 hours on the pre-release stress test builds a week before launch, and another 10 hours plus since on the actual launch product. Games were completed mostly on hard difficulty, both in multiplayer and co-op, with me spending most time on the Commando and Engineer classes. At its core, I personally believe this to still hold true to its roots of a Killing Floor game. The gameplay loop is essentially the same: positioning, landing headshots, managing your resources, utilizing everything in the map to your advantage. There are a multitude of ways to win with each of the different classes leaning towards specific strategies and loadouts. Killing Floor has historically never been an easy game, and will punish even the slightest mistake in the form of mispositioning, getting caught out alone in multiplayer, or being careless with resources. So with its predecessors in mind, let's talk about what I think Killing Floor 3 does better. Skill trees are more fleshed out now. Rather than just being a left or right every 5 levels, each specialist has more diversity in the selection of their skills, with 3 groups impacting their passive traits, grenades, and the new gadget or the active skill ability, which we'll talk a bit more about later. Weapon modding and different damage types have also made its way into the game, and though it's still too early for me to have experimented with all of them, I do welcome the prospective growth and RPG elements offered for players to customize their own unique loadout. The in-game Codex does offer some basic but useful information on the interplay between enemy and damage types. The best way to learn what works best will still rely on long-term experimentation and gathering empirical evidence. The ability to select any tools on any specialist, as well as the map interactions involved with the multi-tool, are a fresh breath of air. Gone are the times when you can hold out against a door infinitely welding it against a wave of Zeds. Now you can instead activate turrets, environmental traps, ziplines, or open new passageways that persist until the end of the match. All that being said, Killing Floor 3 is not without its flaws. As someone who is pretty agnostic to aesthetics and things like the Battle Pass system, I'll focus in priority on what hurts my core gameplay experience the most. The most glaring flaws come when you're under attack in close melee range by 80% of the enemy types out there. Hit registration doesn't always seem to be synchronized well with the visual cues, which makes parrying a close range class like the Ninja or Berserker equivalent annoying considering how reliant he should be on performing parries. Zeds spawning from vertical outlets like manholes, ceiling vents are the worst offenders, with Zeds not having smooth coupling animations and sometimes appearing upright abruptly as if they spawn from thin air. Movement can also be a little rough, though this didn't really bother me too much as I never expected too much out of Killing Floor compared to what its predecessors offered. I do have to say though that majority of the experiences where I experienced this jankiness was in online matches, where latency may play a factor, so if this is something that bothers you immensely, perhaps solo games may be right up your alley. Weapon variety. Again, while I'm personally not bothered too much by there being only 4 primary weapons for each specialist currently, the lack of low income options, especially in the early or mid games of harder difficulties, does further restrict economic choices. I suspect this is meant to be mitigated by the operational budget allotted to you at the start of each wave, where the player is expected to mod weapons in a way that allows for a stronger starting loadout rather than being stuck with the basic tier. However, this will require time and effort to grind for. On difficulty options, normal is perfect for casual gamers who are still learning the game mechanics or just want to steamroll some Zeds. However, for sweaty tryhards like me, it gets too easy real quick. Hard ramps up the difficulty significantly, though after doing 4 or 5 successful rounds, both with friends and in solo at average perk levels of 10 to 15, it seems manageable with a little bit of coordination and practice. The problem lies between hard and hell on earth. Unlike the previous games, the difficulty just skyrockets, seemingly expecting only those with nearly maxed out perks and gear to have success. I for one would very much appreciate a little bit more middle ground. Special mention goes out to the Impaler boss. Of the 3 bosses available thus far, the Impaler is the only boss that spawns multiple copies of itself when in multiplayer, whereas in solo there's only one of him. Whoever decided that 3 bosses should spawn so long as there are a minimum of 4 or maybe 3 players on the team, all hitting at almost equal potential, didn't really think this through. I'm not sure whether this was a deliberate design choice given that the Impaler doesn't summon additional spawns to the fight, but it does seem like tweaking of the numbers like the health pool and damage dealt is in order, especially for the multiplayer boss fight. All that being said, Tripwire, the developers, have already released a roadmap with plans indicating free content down the line, such as added weapons, maps, a new specialist, new enemy types and bosses, etc. I'm certain that they are aware of the glaring issues, though it's anybody's guess whether they will be able to address these issues successfully and in a timely manner. As someone looking for content satisfying my urge to shoot things up, the asking price for the base version of the game, excluding cosmetics of course, seems reasonable to me. With my RTX 4070 Super, I was able to run the game for 6 to 7 hours at a go on high video quality settings at 70 to 90 max FPS with very rare cases of stuttering, frame drops or crashes. Audio and visual cues took some adjustment, but with enough experience, it became intuitive to make callouts on Z-spawns and approach directions. If you've made it this far and have decided to stick with the game, here are some quick tips to share from my hours put into the game so far. On progression, you'll find that solo games may go by much faster while netting you as much or more experience than multiplayer co-op. If you are like me and the type who doesn't have friends or wants to rush for the highest level possible in the shortest amount of time, start normal games until about level 6 when you unlock bonuses for your gadget. Afterwards, you can explore your ability to clear hard difficulty consistently on the map of your choosing. The only class that may struggle to do this is the Medic, with his abilities largely focusing on team support, and lower base damage on his weapons, which is par for the course. Regardless, don't worry too much if you fail, as you retain all experience and resources gained throughout the waves. On farming for resources for weapon attachments or mods, equipping mods will increase the cost of purchasing the safe loadout from the trader, but upgrading mods will not. It also seems like the bonus effect on upgrading a mod to full has some randomization to it, but my best advice is to just find your favorite weapon, buy the mod you think makes the most impact, and max it out fully while disregarding the random effect. Over a longer amount of playtime, you can farm for the ideal attachments. In the worst case scenario, you can refund the mods, though I'd advise against doing this since you only get a fraction of the resources back, the most valuable being the Biosteel, the Z-Tac, and the I-Core. If playing multiplayer, invest in an instant heal ammunition for the medic sidearm. Since any specialist can buy weapons from others, trading in for this can be done as early as the second wave at a relatively low cost of about 400 to 500 dosh. The healing darts on the pistol regenerate quickly and when combined with the instant heal mod can essentially keep a well-positioned and coordinated team topped up on life perpetually. Considering limited syringe economy, you will have a much easier time even if mistakes are made. The downside is the tracking of the darts being slightly weird sometimes, which may take some getting used to. In closing, I've personally enjoyed the game so far and do look forward to more free content. For people who are bothered by the monetization tactics, such as those in the Battle Pass or the cosmetic system, here's a simple tip. Don't forget that you can exercise personal agency over your own money and that you are responsible for the financial decisions that you alone make. As for this channel, I will probably be putting out playthroughs on the highest difficulties with my favorite classes once I get there. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more Killing Floor 3 content.